The Galactic Conquerors. The Zarkonian Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds across the galaxy. Their vast armada of sleek, obsidian ships could blot out the stars themselves. Countless species had fallen before their unstoppable march, their civilizations reduced to mere footnotes in the Empire's grand history of conquest. Earth was to be their next prize. A blue marble teeming with life and resources, ripe for the taking. When the Zarkonian ships first appeared in Earth's skies, humanity reacted with a mixture of awe and terror. The alien vessels hung silently above major cities, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. For 3 days, the world held its breath, waiting for any sign of communication or aggression. On the 4th day, the Zarkonians struck. Energy beams lanced down from the ships, vaporizing military installations and communication centers in seconds. Swarms of fighter craft poured from the larger vessels, engaging Earth's air forces in brutally one-sided battles. The aliens' energy shields shrugged off missiles and bullets like raindrops, while their weapons cut through Earth's most advanced jets as if they were made of paper. Within hours, every major military power on the planet had been crippled. Governments crumbled, and panic spread like wildfire. The Zarkonians broadcast their ultimatum in every language: surrender or be annihilated. Most nations capitulated immediately, their leaders seeing no alternative in the face of such overwhelming technological superiority. A few holdouts attempted to resist, launching nuclear strikes against the alien ships. The missiles never reached their targets, detonating harmlessly against invisible barriers high in the atmosphere. The Zarkonian response was swift and merciless. Entire cities were wiped off the map, leaving nothing but smoking craters as a warning to those who would defy the Empire's will. Within a week, Earth had fallen. Admiral Zexera, commander of the Zarkonian invasion force, stood on the bridge of his flagship, gazing down at the conquered planet with cold satisfaction. His elongated, silver-skinned face reflected in the view screen, 4 crimson eyes narrowed in contemplation. Another primitive world added to the Empire's glory, he said, his voice a low, resonant hum. Hardly worth the effort. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Nera, inclined her head in agreement. The humans put up even less of a fight than the Centauri, Admiral. Their technology is centuries behind ours. I wonder why High Command even bothered sending such a large fleet. Zexera's mouth twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. Caution, Nera. We've encountered surprising resistance from seemingly backward races before, but you're right. This conquest was almost disappointing in its ease. As the Zarkonians began the process of stripping Earth of its resources and subjugating its population, they failed to notice the seeds of resistance already taking root. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a bunker unknown even to most of Earth's governments, a group of humanity's brightest minds and most skilled soldiers had gathered. This was the Lazarus Protocol, a last-ditch contingency plan created for just such an invasion. Dr. Samantha Chen, a brilliant physicist and the architect of the Lazarus Protocol, addressed the assembled group. Her usually immaculate lab coat was rumpled, and dark circles shadowed her eyes, evidence of sleepless nights since the invasion began. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. We are now all that stands between humanity and extinction. The Zarkonians believe they've won, that we're beaten. They're wrong. She gestured to a holographic display showing schematics of Zarkonian technology. Thanks to our deep cover agents and quantum entanglement communication network, we've been gathering intel on the Zarkonians for years. We knew this day might come, and we've been preparing. Colonel Marcus Steele, a grizzled veteran of a dozen hidden wars, stepped forward. Our job is to buy Dr. Chen and her team time. We'll be coordinating a global guerrilla campaign, striking the aliens where they least expect it, and disappearing before they can respond. As Steele outlined the resistance strategy, Dr. Chen continued, "Meanwhile, my team will be working on reverse engineering and improving upon Zarkonian tech. They may have centuries on us, but they've grown complacent. We have something they don't, the innovative spirit that comes from being the underdogs. In the weeks that followed, the Zarkonians grew increasingly puzzled by the humans' behavior. Unlike other conquered species, who either accepted their fate or fought in predictable, easily crushed rebellions, the humans were adapting. Zarkonian patrols would enter a town, only to find it completely abandoned, with no trace of where the population had gone. Supply convoys would be ambushed using tactics that seemed to change with each encounter, and most disturbingly, some of their own technology was being turned against them in ways they'd never anticipated. Admiral Zexera found himself spending more and more time poring over reports of these incidents, his initial dismissiveness giving way to a growing sense of unease. He summoned his top advisors for a conference. "These humans are proving more troublesome than expected," he admitted, his pride stinging at the acknowledgement. "Their resistance is uncoordinated, yet somehow more effective than organized rebellions we've faced on other worlds. It's as if they're not just fighting us, but learning from each encounter." One of his advisors, a grizzled veteran of countless conquests, spoke up. "Perhaps we underestimated them, Admiral. Their historical records show a species that has faced near extinction multiple times, yet always clawed its way back. They're survivors." Zexera dismissed this with a wave of his hand. "Survivors or not, they're still primitives. We've conquered worlds far more advanced. No, there must be something we're missing." Little did the Zarkonians know that their conquest of Earth had inadvertently triggered humanity's greatest leap forward in centuries. In hidden labs across the planet, human scientists worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of physics and engineering. They took apart captured Zarkonian devices, unlocking the secrets of anti-gravity, energy shields, and faster-than-light communication. Dr. Chen and her team made breakthrough after breakthrough, fueled by desperation and the innovative spirit that had taken humanity from stone tools to spaceflight in the blink of cosmic eye. "We're not just copying their tech," Dr. Chen explained to Colonel Steele during one of their strategy sessions. "We're improving on it, finding applications they never considered. The Zarkonians have had these technologies for so long, they've stopped questioning how they work or how they could be better." Steele nodded, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "And that's our advantage. We're seeing it all with fresh eyes." As the resistance grew stronger and bolder, the Zarkonians found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Human fighters would appear out of thin air, strike with uncanny precision, and vanish before retaliation could be mounted. What the aliens didn't realize was that the humans had reverse-engineered and miniaturized their teleportation technology, allowing strike teams to appear inside the supposedly impenetrable Zarkonian bases. The occupied cities became a battleground of a different sort. Civilians, organized into underground networks, engaged in subtle acts of sabotage and intelligence gathering. Children, their minds more adaptable than adults, quickly learned to exploit quirks in Zarkonian AI systems, causing malfunctions that ranged from annoying to catastrophic. Every victory, no matter how small, was celebrated and learned from. Humanity, with its back against the wall, was displaying a level of unity and common purpose unprecedented in its history. 6 months into the occupation, Admiral Zexera found himself facing a situation he'd never encountered in his centuries of military service. The humans were not only resisting effectively, but seemed to be growing stronger. His reports to High Command had gone from confident predictions of total victory to increasingly desperate requests for reinforcements. "How?" he raged at his advisors. "How are these primitives doing this? We crushed their militaries, destroyed their governments. By all rights, they should be broken." Sub-Commander Nera, her own confidence shaken by recent events, offered a theory. "Sir, I've been studying their history and culture. These humans, they have a remarkable ability to unite in the face of external threats. More than that, they seem to thrive on challenges. The more we press them, the more creative and determined they become." Zexera scoffed, but there was a note of uncertainty in his voice. Are you suggesting we've made them stronger by attacking them? Preposterous. Not stronger, sir, Nara corrected, but more focused, more innovative. They're channeling everything into survival and resistance, and I fear we may have overlooked something crucial in our initial assessment. She brought up a holographic display of the solar system. Our long-range scans showed no sign of significant space-based infrastructure or fleet capacity. We assumed this meant they were confined to their planet. But look at these energy readings from the outer system, particularly around Jupiter and Saturn. Zexera leaned in, his four eyes widening as he processed the data. That's impossible. These readings suggest large-scale industrial activity, but we've detected no ships traveling to or from these locations. Nara nodded gravely. Exactly, sir. I believe we may have underestimated not just the humans' will to resist, but their technological capabilities as well. They may have had a hidden presence in their outer system all along, one that our initial scans missed. As the Zarkonians grappled with this disturbing possibility, humanity's true strength was preparing to reveal itself. In the shadows of gas giants and hidden beneath the icy surfaces of moons, shipyards that had been secret even to most of humanity were working at fever pitch. Dr. Chen, coordinating efforts from the Lazarus bunker, allowed herself a small smile as reports came in from these hidden outposts. Humanity had long suspected it might not be alone in the galaxy and had been preparing accordingly. The Zarkonian invasion had kicked those preparations into overdrive. We're almost ready, she told Colonel Steele, exhaustion and excitement warring in her voice. The fleet will be in position within weeks, and with the advancements we've made by studying Zarkonian tech, our ships are more than a match for theirs. Steele nodded, his expression a mixture of anticipation and grim determination. Good. Because down here, we're reaching a tipping point. We can't keep this guerrilla war going forever. Dr. Chen put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We won't have to. The Zarkonians thought they'd conquered us, but they've only seen a fraction of what humanity is capable of. They have no idea what's coming. As the first part of our story draws to a close, the stage is set for a conflict that will determine not just the fate of Earth, but potentially the balance of power in the galaxy. The Zarkonians, once confident in their easy victory, find themselves facing a resistance unlike any they've encountered before, and humanity, pushed to the brink of extinction, is about to unveil the full extent of its ingenuity, determination, and fighting spirit. The real battle for Earth is just beginning. Operation Shadow Strike. In the dead of night, a small team of human operatives materialized inside a Zarkonian command center on the outskirts of what was once known as Chicago. Led by Major Sarah Connor, a former Special Forces operative with a genius for unconventional tactics, the team moved with practiced silence through the alien corridors. Remember, Sarah whispered to her team, we're not here to fight. Our job is to plant the virus and get out. Dr. Chen's code will do the real damage. The virus was a masterpiece of human ingenuity, a piece of software that had taken Dr. Chen and her team months to perfect. It was designed to infiltrate the Zarkonian systems, gathering intelligence and subtly altering their sensor data. If successful, it would blind the aliens to the true extent of human resistance and the approaching fleet. As they approached the central data hub, the team encountered their first real obstacle, a Zarkonian guard patrol. Sarah held up a fist, signaling her team to freeze. They pressed themselves against the walls, their adaptive camouflage blending seamlessly with the alien architecture. The Zarkonians passed by, oblivious to the humans' presence. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The miniaturized cloaking technology, reverse-engineered from captured Zarkonian devices, was working perfectly. Once the coast was clear, the team moved swiftly to the data hub. Tech specialist Jake Rodriguez stepped forward, pulling out a device that looked like a simple tablet but contained computing power that would have been unimaginable just months ago. Interfacing with their systems now, Jake murmured, his fingers dancing across the screen. These aliens may be advanced, but their cybersecurity is laughable. They never expected anyone to get this far. Minutes ticked by, each second increasing the risk of discovery. Finally, Jake looked up with a grin. It's done. The virus is uploaded and already spreading through their network. They won't know what hit them. Sarah nodded, allowing herself to feel a moment of triumph. Good work. Now let's get the hell out of here. As the team prepared to teleport out, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Sarah's heart raced. Had they been discovered? It's not us, Jake said, checking his tablet. Something's happening on the other side of the compound. Looks like a frontal assault. Sarah's mind raced. This wasn't part of the plan. Who would be reckless enough to launch a direct attack on a Zarkonian stronghold? She made a split-second decision. Change of plans. We're going to use this distraction to gather more intel. Jake accessed their tactical displays. Let's see what we're dealing with. On the other side of the compound, a scene of chaos unfolded. A group of human fighters, using a mix of captured Zarkonian weapons and jury-rigged human tech, was engaging the alien forces head-on. Leading the charge was a mountain of a man, roaring defiance as he wielded what looked like a modified construction exosuit. That's insane, Sarah muttered, watching the battle unfold on Jake's tablet. Brave, but insane. They're going to get themselves killed. But as they watched, it became clear that this was no ordinary resistance cell. The attackers moved with a coordination and effectiveness that spoke of extensive training and preparation. They were drawing the Zarkonians into prepared kill zones, using the aliens' own tactics against them. Wait a second, Jake said, zooming in on the leader. I know that guy. That's John Bulldozer Takeda. He was a champion mixed martial artist before the invasion. Looks like he's found a new calling. Sarah's mind raced with the implications. If there were other organized resistance groups out there, unknown even to the Lazarus Protocol, it meant humanity's fight back was even more widespread than they'd realized. Okay, change of plans again. Sarah decided. We're going to extract Takeda and his team. Jake, can you access the Zarkonian defense systems? Jake nodded, already tapping away at his tablet. I can do you one better. I can reprogram their automated turrets to target the Zarkonians instead of Takeda's group. Do it, Sarah ordered. Across the compound, John Takeda was beginning to realize the full cost of his audacious attack. His team had inflicted significant damage, but the Zarkonian counterattack was intensifying. Just as he was about to order a retreat, the tide suddenly turned. The alien defense turrets swiveled and began firing on their own forces. In the confusion that followed, Takeda heard a voice in his ear. Someone had patched into his comm system. Bulldozer, this is Major Connor of the Lazarus Protocol. Looks like you could use an exit strategy. Prepare your team for immediate extraction. Before Takeda could respond, he felt the strange tingling sensation of teleportation. In a blink, he and his team found themselves inside the Zarkonian command center, face to face with Sarah's team. Welcome to Operation Shadow Strike, gentlemen, Sarah said with a grim smile. Let's move. Our exit window is closing fast. As the combined teams made their way to the extraction point, Takeda fell in beside Sarah. Lazarus Protocol. I thought that was just a rumor, something to give people hope. Sarah's expression was unreadable. Sometimes rumors exist for a reason, Bulldozer, but right now I've got some questions for you, starting with how your team got its hands on Zarkonian weapons and intel. Takeda grinned, despite the gravity of their situation. Would you believe we've got a Zarkonian defector? Before Sarah could respond, they reached the extraction point. With a final burst of gunfire to keep the approaching Zarkonian forces at bay, the entire group teleported out, leaving nothing but confusion and destruction in their wake. Back at the Lazarus Protocol's hidden base, Dr. Chen was waiting for them, her eyes alight with excitement despite her obvious exhaustion. The virus is working better than we could have hoped, she reported as soon as Sarah's team materialized. We're already seeing distortions in their sensor data and communications, but more importantly, we've gained access to their central database. Sarah, the intelligence we're gathering. It's beyond our wildest expectations. Sarah nodded, her mind already racing with the possibilities. Good work, Doc. But we got some new variables to consider. She gestured to Takeda and his team. Meet our unexpected allies. And apparently, they'd got a Zarkonian defector on their side. Dr. Chen's eyebrows shot up. A defector. That could change everything. The insight into their psychology, their command structure. Exactly, Sarah agreed. Bulldozer, I think it's time you introduced us to your alien friend. Takeda nodded, tapping his communicator. Zex, it's safe. You can come out now. From the shadows of the hangar emerged a figure that caused everyone to tense up instinctively. The Zarkonian was smaller than most of its kind, with a silvery skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Its 4 eyes darted nervously around the room. This is Zexeri, Takeda introduced. He's Admiral Zexeri's son. A stunned silence fell over the group, broken only when Dr. Chen stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her initial shock. Welcome, Zexeri, she said cautiously. I have about 1,000,000 questions for you, but let's start with the most important one. Why are you helping us? The young Zarkonian's voice was surprisingly melodious, with an undertone of what might have been shame. Because what my father and our empire are doing is wrong. I've studied your species in secret for years. Your art, your music, your incredible diversity of cultures. I couldn't stand by and watch it all be destroyed. Sarah's tactical mind was already racing with the possibilities this defector presented. Zexeri, I'm going to be blunt. We're planning something big, and your inside knowledge could be the key to making it work. Are you willing to tell us everything you know about your father's strategies and the weaknesses in Zarkonian defenses? Zexeri's alien features set in a determined expression. I will do more than that, Major Connor. I will help you defeat my father and free your world. And perhaps in doing so, I can help free my own people from the cycle of conquest that has consumed them. As the debriefing began, Dr. Chen pulled Sarah aside. This is an incredible opportunity, but it's also a risk. How can we be sure we can trust him? Sarah's eyes never left the young Zarkonian. We can't. Not entirely. But right now, he's the best shot we've got at turning the tide. We'll keep him under close observation, but we need to use every advantage we can get. Over the next few weeks, the intelligence provided by Zexeri proved invaluable. Combined with the data gathered by Dr. Chen's virus, it allowed the human resistance to launch a series of precision strikes against Zarkonian weak points across the globe. Weapons caches were destroyed, communication relays sabotaged, and supply lines disrupted. Each successful operation boosted morale and drew more humans into the resistance. The Zarkonians, their once impenetrable defense systems now compromised, found themselves constantly on the back foot. Admiral Zexera, unaware of his son's defection, grew increasingly frustrated and paranoid. His reports to High Command became erratic, filled with claims of human sorcery and impossible technologies. They're in our systems, in our heads. He raged during one particularly tense meeting with his advisors. How else could they anticipate our every move? There must be a traitor among us. Sub-Commander Nera watched her once confident leader's deterioration with a mix of concern and growing doubt. The humans were displaying capabilities far beyond what should have been possible for a species at their technological level. It was as if they were being guided by an unseen hand, one that knew the Zarkonian playbook intimately. Back at the Lazarus Protocol base, Sarah and Dr. Chen were putting the final touches on their master plan. The human fleet, hidden in the outer solar system, was almost ready. The Zarkonian occupation forces were in disarray, their command structure compromised by the constant guerrilla attacks and the virus wreaking havoc in their systems. We're almost there, Dr. Chen said, her voice tight with a mix of exhaustion and excitement. A few more weeks, and we'll have the strength to drive them off our planet for good." Sarah nodded, but her expression was troubled. "That's what worries me, Doc. We've been too successful. Sooner or later, the Zarkonians are going to realize the full extent of what they're dealing with, and when that happens, they'll throw everything they have at us." Dr. Chen finished grimly. "Exactly. Which means we need to accelerate our timeline." "Zexeri," Sarah called out to the young Zarkonian, who had become an integral part of their planning sessions. "We need to know exactly what kind of reinforcements your father can call in, and how quickly they can get here." Zexeri's alien features contorted in what the humans had learned to recognize as deep concentration. "There is a reserve fleet stationed in the Proxima Centauri system. If my father calls for aid, they could be here within days." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Then we need to make our move now, before he has a chance to make that call." "Doc, is the fleet ready?" Dr. Chen hesitated for a moment, then nodded firmly. "As ready as they'll ever be. I'll give the signal." As the orders went out, a ripple of anticipation spread through the hidden bases and resistance cells across the planet. After months of hiding, of fighting from the shadows, humanity was about to reveal its full strength. In his flagship orbiting Earth, Admiral Zexeri received an urgent communication from one of his outlying picket ships. The message was garbled, filled with static, but the words that came through chilled him to his core. "Massive fleet, emerging from behind Jupiter. Energy readings off the charts. They're coming." As alarms blared and his crew scrambled to battle stations, Zexeri stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How could he have been so wrong? How could these primitive humans have hidden such power? As the human fleet approached, its ships gleaming with a perfect fusion of Earth ingenuity and reverse-engineered Zarkonian tech, Admiral Zexeri realized a terrible truth. This wasn't just a rebellion he was facing. It was a reckoning. The battle for Earth was about to begin in earnest, and the galaxy would never be the same. The tide turns. The skies above Earth erupted in a dazzling display of energy weapons and explosions as the hidden human fleet engaged the Zarkonian occupation forces. Admiral Zexeri watched in stunned disbelief as ships he'd never imagined humans capable of building tore through his defensive lines with terrifying efficiency. "Impossible," he muttered, his 4 eyes wide with shock. "This can't be happening." On the bridge of the lead human ship, christened the HS Defiance, Captain Elena Rodriguez allowed herself a grim smile. The months of preparation, the sacrifices made to keep this fleet hidden, were all paying off. "Status report," she barked, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. Her XO, Commander David Chen, no relation to Dr. Samantha Chen, responded crisply. "Our shields are holding, Captain. The Zarkonian fleet is in disarray. They clearly weren't expecting anything like this." Elena nodded. "Good. Signal all ships. Execute Operation Thunderbolt." Across the fleet, human ships began to implement the strategy they'd drilled for countless times. It was a complex dance of feints, sudden strikes, and coordinated assaults, all designed to maximize the advantage of surprise and keep the Zarkonians off balance. But it wasn't just in space that the tide was turning. On the ground, resistance cells across the globe launched synchronized attacks on key Zarkonian installations. The virus planted during Operation Shadow Strike had done its work, leaving the alien forces blind and confused. In what was once downtown Los Angeles, John Bulldozer Takeda led a daring assault on a major Zarkonian command center. His exosuit, now enhanced with reverse-engineered alien tech, smashed through defenses that would have been impenetrable just months ago. "Remember, people," he growled over the comm to his team, "we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human on this planet, and for every species these bastards have conquered. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity won't go quietly." As Takeda's team pushed deeper into the facility, they were joined by an unexpected ally. A group of Zarkonian soldiers, led by a familiar silver-skinned figure, fought alongside them. Zexeri. Takeda called out in surprise. "What are you doing here?" The young Zarkonian's voice was filled with determination. "Spreading the truth, bulldozer. Not all of my people agree with this war. Once they learned the reality of what we were doing, some chose to stand with Earth." This scene was repeating itself across the globe. The Zarkonian occupation forces, already rattled by months of guerrilla warfare, now found themselves facing not just human resistance, but dissension within their own ranks. Back in orbit, the space battle raged on. The human fleet, though outnumbered, fought with a ferocity and skill that left the Zarkonians reeling. Ships that by all rights shouldn't have existed were executing maneuvers that defied conventional tactics. On the Defiance, Captain Rodriguez watched as another Zarkonian cruiser fell to their assault. "They still outnumber us," she noted grimly. "We need to press our advantage before they can regroup." Commander Chen nodded in agreement. "Captain, I think it's time we unveiled our secret weapon." Elena's eyes glinted with anticipation. "I couldn't agree more, Commander. Signal the Artemis. Tell them it's time to wake the giant." Deep in the asteroid belt, a massive ship that had been hidden in plain sight began to move. The HSS Artemis, nearly twice the size of the largest Zarkonian vessel, had been the centerpiece of humanity's secret space program for decades. Now, enhanced with the best of human and Zarkonian technology, it was about to turn the tide of battle decisively. As the Artemis approached the main battle group, its massive energy signature finally registering on Zarkonian sensors, Admiral Zexera felt the last of his confidence crumble. "By the eternal void," he whispered, "what have we awakened?" The Artemis's main weapon, a gravitational pulse cannon that could tear ships apart at the atomic level, fired for the first time. The effect was devastating. Whole squadrons of Zarkonian ships were reduced to their component atoms in seconds. As chaos engulfed the Zarkonian fleet, Captain Rodriguez opened a channel to Admiral Zexera's flagship. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Human Freedom Fleet. Your invasion has failed, Admiral. Surrender now, and we can end this without further bloodshed." In his command center, Zexera stared at the human captain's image on his view screen. How had it come to this? How had these primitives, these barely spacefaring apes, brought the mighty Zarkonian Empire to its knees? With a heavy heart, recognizing the futility of further resistance, Admiral Zexera gave the order he'd never thought he'd utter. "All ships, stand down. Initiate surrender protocols." As the news of the Zarkonian surrender spread, cheers erupted across human ships and resistance strongholds. But for those in command, the work was far from over. In the Lazarus Protocol's main base, Dr. Samantha Chen and Major Sarah Connor watched the events unfold with a mixture of elation and trepidation. "We did it," Sarah breathed, allowing herself a moment of relief. "We actually did it." Dr. Chen nodded, but her expression remained serious. "This battle is won, but the war isn't over. The Zarkonian Empire spans half the galaxy. They'll send reinforcements. Then we better make the most of the time we have," Sarah replied, her tactical mind already racing. "We need to consolidate our gains, reverse engineer as much of their tech as we can, and prepare for the next wave." As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the base. Dr. Chen rushed to a nearby console, her fingers flying over the controls. "We're detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. It's a Zarkonian reinforcement fleet. They must have been closer than we thought." Sarah's jaw tightened. "How long do we have?" "At their current speed, less than 48 hours before they reach Earth orbit." The Major's mind raced through options, each one seeming more desperate than the last. Then, a wild idea struck her. "Doc, that gravity weapon on the Artemis, could we repurpose it? Turn it into some kind of system-wide defense?" Dr. Chen's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. "You're talking about creating an artificial gravity well around the entire solar system. That's insane. The power requirements alone would be..." But is it possible? Sarah pressed. After a moment's hesitation, Dr. Chen nodded slowly. Theoretically, yes, but we'd need to coordinate every ship in the fleet, plus ground-based installations. And even then, I'm not sure we could sustain it for long. It doesn't need to be long, Sarah said, a plan already forming in her mind. Just long enough to buy us time to negotiate. Get me a line to Captain Rodriguez and every resistance leader on the planet. We've got work to do. Over the next 36 hours, Earth became a hive of frenzied activity. Every available scientist, engineer, and technician was pulled into Dr. Chen's ambitious project. Captured Zarkonian ships were hastily retrofitted, their power systems repurposed to generate the massive energy field that would be Earth's shield. As the clock ticked down, tensions ran high. The fate of not just Earth, but potentially the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Finally, with less than an hour to spare, Dr. Chen gave the signal. It's ready. As ready as it'll ever be anyway. Across the solar system, on ships and planet-side installations, humans held their breath as the system activated. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, at the very edge of human sensor range, space itself seemed to ripple. The Zarkonian reinforcement fleet, comprising hundreds of warships, suddenly found itself fighting against an invisible, yet immovable force. No matter how much power they poured into their engines, they could not break through the gravity barrier that now surrounded the solar system. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. Signal the Zarkonian fleet. Tell them we're ready to discuss terms. The negotiations that followed would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. With their invasion force captured and their reinforcements held at bay, the Zarkonian Empire was forced to the bargaining table for the first time in its long history of conquest. The terms were harsh: immediate withdrawal from Earth and all its colonies, reparations for the damage caused, and a non-aggression pact that would last for a century. But the most significant clause, the one that would echo across the stars, was Earth's demand to be recognized as a major galactic power, with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. As the Zarkonian representatives grudgingly signed the treaty, Admiral Zexera, now a prisoner of war, watched with a mixture of bitterness and grudging respect. "You realize," he said to Major Sarah Connor, who stood nearby, "that by defeating us, you've painted a target on your backs. Other galactic powers will see Earth as a threat now." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "Maybe. But they'll also see us as a force to be reckoned with. And after what humanity has been through, I almost pity anyone foolish enough to try us." In the days and weeks that followed, Earth began the long process of rebuilding. The technology gained from the Zarkonians accelerated human development by centuries. Cities were rebuilt using advanced materials, clean energy became the norm, and the first true off-world colonies were established on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. But perhaps the most profound changes were philosophical. Humanity, having faced extinction and emerged victorious, found itself united as never before. Old rivalries and conflicts seemed petty in the face of what they had accomplished together. As Earth took its first steps onto the galactic stage, Dr. Samantha Chen stood in the newly constructed United Earth Embassy on the neutral world of Arcturus, preparing to address representatives from a dozen alien species. "A year ago," she began, her voice carrying across the assembly, "humanity was unknown to the galaxy at large. We were, in the eyes of some, nothing more than primitives, barely worth conquering. Today, we stand before you as equals, having defended not just our world, but our right to exist as a free and independent species." She paused, looking out at the sea of alien faces, some curious, some wary, some openly hostile. "But we come here not to boast of our victory, nor to threaten. We come with an open hand, seeking friendship and cooperation. For in our struggle against the Zarkonian Empire, we learned a valuable lesson. The greatest strength comes not from technology or military might, but from unity, from the ability to stand together in the face of adversity. As Dr. Chen continued her speech, back on Earth, in a small park rebuilt from the ashes of war, John Takeda sat on a bench, his exosuit nowhere in sight. Beside him, looking somewhat out of place but oddly comfortable, sat Sexeri. "Do you think it'll last?" the young Zarkonian asked, gesturing at the peaceful scene around them. "This peace, this new beginning." Takeda was quiet for a moment, watching as children of various species played together, their laughter a testament to the resilience of life. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "Peace is never guaranteed. But I do know this: whatever comes next, humanity will face it the same way we faced your people, together, and with everything we've got." As the sun set on a Earth forever changed, its people looked to the stars not with fear, but with hope and determination. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once. It was a mistake unlikely to be repeated, for Earth was no longer just a small blue marble in the cosmic ocean. It was a beacon of resilience, a symbol of what could be achieved when a species united against impossible odds. And as humanity took its first tentative steps into a wider galactic community, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. A new galactic order. The Galactic Council chamber on Arcturus was abuzz with tension. Representatives from dozens of species, some so alien that their very forms defied human understanding, were gathered for an emergency session. At the center of attention stood Dr. Samantha Chen, Earth's ambassador to the stars. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment, "we are here today because the galaxy as we knew it has changed. The fall of the Zarkonian Empire has created a power vacuum, one that threatens the stability of countless worlds." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. A tall, avian creature with iridescent feathers rose to speak. "Ambassador Chen, while we appreciate Earth's role in toppling the Zarkonians, many of us are concerned about the rapid rise of human influence. Your species went from unknown to major power in less than a standard galactic year. Surely you can understand our unease." Dr. Chen nodded, having anticipated this line of questioning. "I understand your concerns, Representative Kriax. But I would remind the Council that Earth did not seek this conflict. We defended ourselves, yes, but our goal has always been peace and cooperation." Before she could continue, another delegate interrupted. This one was a gelatinous mass that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, the Korath, known for their isolationist policies. Pretty words, the Korath delegate burbled, its translator struggling to convey the sarcasm in its tone. "But actions speak louder. Your people now control Zarkonian technology, including weapons of mass destruction. How can we trust that you won't become the very thing you fought against?" The chamber erupted in a cacophony of agreement and protest. Dr. Chen waited for the noise to die down before responding, her expression grave. "Distinguished delegates, I hear your fears. They are not unfounded. Power, especially power gained suddenly, can be a dangerous thing. But I ask you to look at how we've used that power so far." She gestured to a holographic display that sprang to life in the center of the chamber. It showed images of Earth ships providing aid to former Zarkonian slave worlds, of human scientists working alongside alien counterparts to reverse ecological damage on conquered planets. "We could have used our victory to establish our own empire," Dr. Chen continued. "Instead, we focused on healing the wounds left by centuries of Zarkonian rule. We've shared medical advancements, helped rebuild devastated worlds, and yes, we've kept some of the Zarkonian weapons as a deterrent, to ensure that no species ever tries to subjugate another, as the Zarkonians did." The avian representative, Kriax, spoke again, his tone less confrontational this time. "Your points are well made, Ambassador. But what assurances can Earth provide that it will not abuse its new position?" Dr. Chen smiled, having waited for this opening. "I'm glad you asked, Representative. Earth proposes the formation of a new galactic alliance. Not an empire, not a hierarchy, but a true partnership of equals. We would pool our resources, share technology responsibly, and establish a mutual defense pact. No single species would hold dominion over others. The chamber fell silent as the implications of this proposal sank in. It was Counselor Genva, an ancient and respected member of the silicon-based X theory, who broke the silence. An ambitious proposal, Ambassador Chen. But how would such an alliance function in practical terms? The logistics alone would be staggering. Dr. Chen nodded respectfully to the elder statesman. You're absolutely right, Counselor. Which is why we've spent the last 6 months developing a comprehensive plan. With a gesture, she expanded the holographic display, showing a complex network of interconnected systems. We propose a decentralized governance structure with rotating leadership and checks and balances to prevent any one species from gaining too much power. Decisions would be made by consensus, with provisions for emergency action in cases of imminent threats. As Dr. Chen delved into the details of the proposal, back on Earth, the architects of humanity's defense were facing challenges of their own. In a high-security facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Major Sarah Connor paced restlessly as she listened to a report from her intelligence chief, Colonel Raj Patel. "It's not good, Major," Raj said, his usually calm demeanor showing signs of strain. "We're picking up chatter from multiple sources. Some of the more militant species see Earth's rise as a threat to their own expansionist ambitions. There's talk of forming a coalition against us." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Damned if we do, damned if we don't. We defend ourselves, and suddenly we're the bad guys. Any specific threats we need to worry about?" Raj nodded grimly. "The Krex Imperium has been especially vocal. They were poised to challenge the Zarkonians before we came along. Now they see us as having stolen their moment." "Great," Sarah muttered. "Just what we need. An empire with a grudge. What about our own defense capabilities? How do we stack up against these potential threats?" The colonel pulled up a series of classified reports on his tablet. "It's a mixed bag. Thanks to the Zarkonian tech we've adapted, our ships are among the most advanced in known space. But we're still outnumbered. If multiple species decide to ally against us, we could be in trouble." Sarah absorbed this information, her mind already formulating strategies. "We need allies, and fast. Not just political allies, but species willing to stand with us militarily if it comes to that." As if on cue, her comm unit buzzed. It was a priority message from Captain Elena Rodriguez, now Admiral of Earth's growing space fleet. "Major, we got a situation developing in the Proxima Centauri system." Elena's voice crackled through. "A Krex battle group just dropped out of FTL. They're demanding we abandon our colony there, claiming it's within their sphere of influence." Sarah's blood ran cold. This was exactly the kind of provocation they'd been worried about. "Rules of engagement. Defensive posture only," Elena replied. "We're not firing unless fired upon. But Major, they're pushing hard. I'm not sure how long we can maintain this standoff." Sarah made a quick decision. "Hold your position, Admiral. I'm going to reach out to our potential allies. See if we can't get some backup out there to make the Krex think twice." As Sarah ended the call, she turned to Colonel Patel. "Get me a secure line to Zexari. If anyone knows how to deal with bullies like the Krex, it's a former Zarkonian." Within hours, a coalition was forming. Species that had once feared Earth now saw it as a bulwark against new threats. The Arcturian Federation, impressed by Dr. Chen's proposal in the Galactic Council, pledged their advanced sensor networks to the human cause. The Volcran, a race of energy beings who had long opposed Zarkonian expansion, offered their unique abilities to enhance Earth's defensive capabilities. But it was the arrival of an unexpected ally that truly turned the tide. As the standoff in the Proxima Centauri system reached its tensest moment, with Krex warships edging ever closer to the human defense line, a massive fleet dropped out of FTL. Admiral Rodriguez's eyes widened as she recognized the ships. "It can't be." The comm crackled to life, and a familiar voice filled the bridge of the HSS Defiance. This is Admiral Zek's era of the Free Zarkonian Alliance. We stand with Earth against any who would threaten galactic peace. The Krex fleet, suddenly finding itself grossly outnumbered, quickly withdrew. As the immediate crisis passed, Admiral Rodriguez opened a channel to the Zarkonian flagship. "Admiral Zek's era," she said, unable to keep a note of surprise from her voice. "I have to admit, your arrival was unexpected. Last I heard, you were under house arrest back on Earth." The old Zarkonian's image appeared on the view screen, his silver face creased with what Elena had learned to recognize as a smile. "Let's just say that your Major Connor can be very persuasive, Captain, or should I say, Admiral Rodriguez." When she explained the situation, I realized that this was a chance for my people to redeem ourselves. Many of us never agreed with the Empire's policies of conquest. Now we have a chance to be part of something better. As news of the averted crisis spread, the mood in the Galactic Council chamber on Arcturus shifted dramatically. Species that had been hesitant about Earth's proposed alliance now saw it as a necessary bulwark against chaos. Dr. Chen, seizing the moment, addressed the assembly once more. "Esteemed colleagues, today we saw a glimpse of what's possible when we stand together. The Krex Imperium sought to test our resolve, to exploit perceived divisions among us. Instead, they found unity. This is the promise of the alliance we propose, not dominion of one over many, but the strength of all standing as one." One by one, representatives stepped forward to signal their support. The Arcturians, the Volcran, even the once skeptical Kurath. But it was the arrival of Admiral Zek's era, speaking on behalf of the newly formed Free Zarkonian Alliance, that truly sealed the deal. "For too long, my people were the scourge of the galaxy," Zek's era said, his voice heavy with emotion. "We brought pain and suffering to countless worlds. Today, we seek to make amends. We offer our knowledge, our resources, and our solemn vow to defend peace alongside our human allies and all who would join us." As the council chamber erupted in a historic show of unity, back on Earth, in the Lazarus Protocol's main base, Major Sarah Connor allowed herself a moment of relief. "We did it," she said softly, watching the proceedings on a secure feed. "We actually did it." Beside her, John Takeda nodded, his usual bravado tempered by the weight of the moment. "Yeah, we did. But something tells me this is just the beginning." Sarah turned to her old friend and comrade, a wry smile on her face. "When isn't it just the beginning with us, Bulldozer? But you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way." As Earth and its allies celebrated this new era of cooperation, in the vast darkness between galaxies, something stirred. An ancient intelligence, awakened by the sudden shift in the cosmic balance, turned its unfathomable attention towards the Milky Way. For humanity and its newfound allies, the greatest test was yet to come. But for now, for this moment, there was hope. Hope for a future where the stars were not a battlefield, but a playground for discovery and cooperation. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all. The Cosmic Challenge. 5 years had passed since the formation of the Galactic Alliance. Earth, once an isolated world on the fringes of known space, now stood as a cornerstone of a new interstellar order. The Alliance had brought unprecedented peace and prosperity to hundreds of worlds, but with it came new responsibilities and unforeseen challenges. In the newly constructed Alliance headquarters on Mars, Dr. Samantha Chen, now serving as Earth's representative to the Alliance Council, found herself in yet another tense meeting. "The expansion into the Orc cloud is proceeding too quickly," argued Councillor Vox of the Arcturians, his holographic form flickering slightly. "We're detecting gravitational anomalies that could indicate." He was cut off by a blaring alarm. Red emergency lights bathed the council chamber as a harried-looking aide rushed in. "Councillors," the aide gasped, "we're picking up a massive energy signature at the edge of the solar system. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." Dr. Chen's blood ran cold. They had all known this day might come, had prepared for it as best they could, But the reality was still shocking. "It's them, isn't it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "The ones Zexari warned us about." The aide nodded grimly. "All indications point to yes. The precursors have arrived." Across the solar system, from the bustling colonies on Mars to the research stations orbiting Saturn, the alert went out. The mysterious force that the free Zarkonians had spoken of in hushed tones, the power that had shaped galactic evolution for eons, had finally turned its attention to Earth and its allies. On the bridge of the HSS Defiance, now the flagship of humanity's contribution to the Alliance fleet, Admiral Elena Rodriguez received the news with grim determination. "All ships, battle stations," she ordered, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." As the Alliance fleet assembled, a colossal structure emerged from the depths of space. It defied easy description. Part ship, part living organism, with geometries that seemed to shift and change as one looked at it. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Suddenly, every communication device in the solar system crackled to life. A voice, if it could be called that, resonated not just through speakers, but seemingly through the minds of every sentient being. "HFY Eldorian of the Galactic," it intoned, its mental voice carrying the weight of eons. "Your GROVH, HASBEENOBZERVD. Your Alliance is disrupte, the cosmic CYTL. You will be evaluated. You will be judged." In the Alliance HQ on Mars, Dr. Chen turned to her fellow counselors, her expression a mixture of fear and determination. "This is it," she said. "Everything we've built, everything we've worked for, it all comes down to this moment." Counselor Zexari, the young Zarkonian who had once defected to aid humanity, stepped forward. "We knew this day would come," he said, his voice steady. "My people's legends spoke of the precursors, of their tests and judgments. But never before has an alliance like ours faced them. We have a chance, a real chance, to prove ourselves worthy." As the precursor entity approached, the Alliance put its emergency protocols into action. It wasn't just a military response. Scientists, diplomats, and civilians all had roles to play in what might be the most important moment in galactic history. On Earth, in the old Lazarus Protocol base, now a museum and training center, Major Sarah Connor, retired, watched the events unfold with a mixture of pride and concern. Beside her stood John Bulldozer Takeda, his once powerful frame now showing signs of age, but still radiating strength. "Looks like the kids get to save the world this time," Takeda quipped, though his tone was serious. Sarah nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical displays. "They're ready. We made sure of that. Now it's up to them to show the precursors what humanity, what all of us, are really made of." As the precursor entity entered the inner solar system, the Alliance fleet took up defensive positions, but it quickly became clear that this wasn't a battle that could be won with firepower alone. The entity began to emit complex energy patterns, bombarding Alliance ships and stations with what seemed to be a form of communication far beyond conventional understanding. Scientists and linguists worked feverishly to decipher the messages, while military leaders stood ready to defend against any aggressive moves. In the midst of this cosmic confrontation, an unlikely hero emerged. Dr. Ariajong, a brilliant young xenolinguist who had been at the forefront of developing communication protocols for the Alliance, made a breakthrough. "It's not just language," she explained breathlessly to the Alliance Council. It's a test. The precursors are presenting us with complex moral and logical problems. How we solve them will determine their judgment of us." Dr. Chen leaned forward, her mind racing. "Can you give us an example?" Dr. Zhang nodded, pulling up a holographic representation of one of the precursor puzzles. "This one seems to be about resource allocation and cooperation. It's presenting a scenario where different species have conflicting needs, And we need to find a solution that benefits all without compromising the integrity of any one group. That's exactly what the Alliance was founded to do, Counselor Vox of the Arcturians said, a note of hope in his voice. Exactly, Dr. Zhang agreed. I think they're not just judging us on our technological capabilities. They're judging the very principles our alliance is built on. With this realization, the nature of the confrontation changed. It was no longer a standoff between opposing forces, but a test, a cosmic examination to determine whether this fledgling alliance was worthy of taking its place among the stars. For days, the best minds of the alliance worked tirelessly to solve the Precursor's puzzles. Each solution they provided seemed to lead to even more complex challenges. It was a test of not just intelligence, but of ethics, empathy, and the ability to balance the needs of wildly diverse species. Throughout it all, the alliance held firm. Species that had once been bitter enemies now worked side by side, pooling their unique perspectives to tackle problems that no single race could have solved alone. As the final puzzle was solved, a tense silence fell across the solar system. The precursor entity, which had remained ominously silent since presenting its tests, suddenly flared with blinding light. Once again, its voice resonated through the minds of all. UHAVBENGUDGD. UHAVBENFO worthy. The relief that swept through the alliance was palpable. But the precursor wasn't finished. Your ALINC or EPORES ANADU paradigm in all our eons of WATCHI. Nivi or HAV in such diverse species, unite with such harmony. UAVPRV in K8 cooperation can triumphov or KONFLIT. That LND or standing can OVR FER. The massive entity began to shift, its impossible geometries rearranging themselves. We OFFERUH choice. Join US among TESTRs. ACND to ANU plane of existence. Or Rarimain as you are, Guardians of DS Realum. She pairs to younger or AC is, who will FOLO in your payte. In the Alliance HQ on Mars, the council chamber erupted in debate. The offer of ascension was tempting. The knowledge and power of the precursors was beyond imagination. But with it would come the abandonment of their physical forms, of the very diversity that had made their alliance strong. It was Dr. Samantha Chen who finally brought the debate to a close. Standing before her fellow counselors, she spoke with quiet conviction. "We are honored by the precursors offered," she began. "The knowledge they could grant us, the power to shape the very fabric of the cosmos, it's beyond anything we could have dreamed. But it's not who we are." She gestured to her fellow counselors, humans, Zarkonians, Arcturians, and a dozen other species, each unique and irreplaceable. Our strength lies not in transcending our physical forms, but in embracing them, in celebrating our differences and finding unity in our diversity. We choose to remain as we are, not because we fear change, but because we believe in the path we've chosen. One by one, the other counselors voiced their agreement. When they delivered their decision to the precursors, the entity's response was not disappointment, but what could only be described as approval. "You have chosen wisely," the precursor communicated. "Your path is difficult, but it is noble. We leave the future of this galaxy in your hands." With that, the precursor entity began to withdraw, its massive form fading into the depths of space. But as it left, it imparted one final gift: the location of other young alliances across the universe, potential friends and allies in the vast cosmic ocean. As news of the alliance's triumph spread, celebrations erupted across 1,000 worlds. Species that had once viewed each other with suspicion now embraced as brothers and sisters in a grand cosmic family. On Earth, in the old Lazarus Protocol base, Sarah Connor and John Takeda watched the celebrations with tears in their eyes. "We did it, Sarah," Takeda said softly. "We really did it." Sarah nodded, her thoughts on the long, difficult road that had led them here. "We gave them a foundation," she replied. "They built something beautiful on it." As the sun set on this new era, Dr. Samantha Chen stood on the observation deck of the Mars HQ, looking out at the stars. The galaxy spread out before her, no longer a realm of threat and unknown, but a frontier of infinite possibility. "We're ready," she whispered to herself, and to the countless generations that would follow. "We're ready for whatever comes next." And so, humanity and its allies stepped into a future bright with promise. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had built bridges across chasms of difference and misunderstanding. They had been tested by powers beyond comprehension and had proven their worth. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, conflicts, and hard choices to make, but they would face them together, united in their diversity, strong in their shared purpose. For in the end, that was humanity's greatest strength, not the technology they had built, or the powers they had gained, but the connections they had forged. In reaching out to the stars, they had found not just new worlds, but new parts of themselves. The story of humanity's great adventure was far from over. In many ways, it had only just begun. But as the Alliance looked to the future, one thing was certain. Whatever the cosmos might throw at them, they would face it the same way they had faced every challenge before, with courage, with ingenuity, and above all, together. The end, and a new beginning.